Okay, let's go ahead and look over our do now. As we measure this one out, we should get that is 1 3/4. As we measure this one out, we should get that it is 2 1/4, which is also the same thing as 2.25. Coming over here, we want 1/2 of 1/8, so 1/2 of 1/8 is equal to 1/16. And 1/2 of 2 1/2, so 1/2 of 5/2 is equal to 5/4, which is also equal to 1 1/4. Okay, so let's go over and look at our aim for today. Today's aim, Kipsters will be able to determine the scale factor of 2 drums. So today this is going to take a fair amount of work with our rulers. We're using the protractor part of the ruler, and we're looking at our original. So what I want us to do is I want us to be thinking about measuring from our original to our sticker. So if we think through this particular problem, what they're telling us is the original is this one, and our sticker is this larger one over here. We might call that an enlargement when we went from the original to the sticker based on the information that we learned yesterday. So if Ruben wants this to look professional, he definitely wants it to be proportional. He doesn't want to mess anything up here. So what Ruben's going to do is we're going to go ahead and check to make sure that Ruben did make a proportional drawing here and that he didn't mess anything up along the way. So we're actually going to take 4 different measurements of the original and the sticker, and we're going to be able to compare them. We're going to be looking to see if it does have that same constant of proportionality, and we'll call that constant of proportionality in this case a scale factor if it does. So the 4 measurements I want you to take is one along this edge, another along this back edge, another along this back edge, and then I want you to take one from this corner that's sticking out over here to this corner over here. So go ahead and make those 4 measurements, and we'll call them measurement 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's really just to help us label, because in a moment we're going to do the same thing with the large sticker to make sure that we have the correct corresponding sides. So go ahead and measure those 4 and go ahead and put that into your table and tell me in inches and fractions of inches how big those sides are. Okay, hopefully you've gone through and measured these. This first one up along this top edge you should have measured as 1 inch exactly. This second one coming along this back edge should have been 7/8 of an inch. Coming along this bottom portion, this should have been 3/4 of an inch. And coming across the front over here, this fourth one should have also been 1 inch. So now we want to measure the corresponding sides of this one over here. So again, this will correspond to our 1, this will correspond to our 2, this will correspond to our 3, and this one across the front from the corner to the corner will correspond to our 4. So go ahead and measure those 4 different measurements again, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and go ahead and throw those into your table as well. Okay, with some careful measuring, hopefully you measured 1 to be 2 inches. You measured 2 should have been 1 3/4 inches. And 3/4 should have been 1 1/2 inches. And this last one should have been 2 inches. So when we're looking for a scale factor, we're looking to determine how much we changed from the x original to the y. So y over x. And if this is correctly scaled, we should have the constant of 2 all the way through. And if you go ahead and do that math for y over x for all 4 of them, we will indeed see that we do have that same scale factor all throughout. So we get that same scale factor of 2 all throughout. And what this tells us is that Reuben has proportionally drawn his item here. So what we can do is we can go ahead and label that this is the equation. Our scale factor equation is y is equal to 2x. So for any measurement, no matter where it is on the Rubik's Cube, whether it be talking about one measurement across the front or maybe from here to here, from the original to the sticker, it is going to be 2 times as large. So let's think about the steps that we had to go through in order to check for proportionality. So the first thing we did was measure from the original drawing. Measure from the original drawing. The second thing we did was we measured the corresponding sides. So remember, corresponding means the same part of the figure, just in the enlarged or reduced figure. Measure the corresponding sides. And then finally, to calculate the scale factor, we check for a constant of proportionality. Check for constant of proportionality. So this goes into the work that we did yesterday. We did the same thing with two-dimensional figures yesterday. And we identified that when they did have that same scale factor throughout, that we were able to say that it was a proportional relationship and it was proportionally drawn. Let's go back and briefly discuss some of the ideas that we see with this particular scale factor. So we can see with this idea that the scale factor in this particular problem was a scale factor of 2, and that made our figure bigger. What do you think would happen if we had a scale factor that was less than 1? So if we had a scale factor of less than 1, then this multiplication, when we plug in x, is going to end up with a smaller number for y, which means it's actually going to be a reduction. So we should be able to see that link between the value of the scale factor and how much bigger or how much smaller that it's going to be. Let's say, for instance, we had a scale factor of 3 from the original. Do you think that would be bigger than the sticker that we already have, or smaller? Of course, it would be bigger, because if we multiply 3 times x as opposed to 2 times x, we're going to get larger values. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our next part. Let's go ahead and measure the corresponding sides from our original. So again, remember, we measured this as the first, second, third, and this coming across the front is the fourth. And when we did this in the original, this one was 1 inch, this first one was 1 inch, this one was 7/8, and this one was 3/4. So let's go ahead and measure those values in our new app icon. So it's a little bit smaller here. See what we get for our values. Alright, so when we go through and measure these, we should get that this first one is 1/2. The next one is 7/16. The next one is 3/8, and the last one is 1/2. So when we look at this again, if we want to find the scale factor here, we want to go ahead and find y over x. Go ahead and find the scale factor really quickly for this particular reduction. As we can see, it was going to be smaller. As you're doing it, make a prediction. Do you think it's going to be a number that's larger than 1 or less than 1? So we can see here that our scale factor is 1/2, and that makes sense to us as we plug it into the equation that tells us that every time that we put an x in, we're going to be multiplying it by half, which actually means making it smaller, and we would expect that when we have a reduction. Alright, so this one asks us to actually do the opposite. We want a scale factor of 3 for drawing the picture of the Colombian flag. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and measure out some of the most important parts here. We know that it's going to be rectangular in shape, so we're going to need to know the length, and all of them have the same length aside. So I'm going to call this part 1 is going to be the length of this. And so let's go ahead and measure that out. And then I want to know how far down to go for the next part. So we'll call that 2. How far down to go for the third part. And how far down to go for the fourth part. Go ahead and measure those values right now. Okay, hopefully as you've measured them, you found that the original length is 1 1/2 inches, that this first yellow section is 1/2 inch tall, and that the bottom two sections are 1/4 inch tall and 1/4 inch tall. So we know that if we're given the scale factor of 3, that means we could write the equation y is equal to 3 times x. Because we're just using that scale factor as 3, it's the same thing as our constant of proportionality. So I can plug in each of these x values in to find the y, which realistically means all I'm really doing is multiplying by 3. So this is going to give me 3 over 2 times 3 is going to be 9 over 2. But if I want to go ahead and measure that out with my ruler, I'm going to go ahead and convert that to 4 1/2. So this one is going to be 1 over 2 times 3, which is going to give me 3 over 2, which is going to be 1 1/2 inches tall for that portion. And this is going to be 1/4 times 3, which is going to give me 3/4. And so I want to go ahead and draw that below. And you'll have to forgive me, I don't have a ruler here. I imagine that it's going to take up almost the entire length here. So with your ruler, you notice I've given you some grid lines to help you draw kind of straight lines and perpendicular lines. So as we're measuring this out, hopefully you have this top part measuring out as 4 1/2, and then 1 1/2 inches down. And then we need to go down another 3/4 of an inch, and another 3/4 of an inch. And this whole bottom part should be 4 1/2 inches. And if you had some colors, we'd color it in real pretty, like yellow, blue, and red. Thank you, Columbia. Alright, so over here, we've got another one. It's got a scale factor of 1/2. You know all of the original amounts. Go ahead and put those into the table. Go ahead and measure out, or use the scale equation that you're going to write down here. Y is equal to what? Times x. and go ahead and find out the lengths of your drawings and go ahead and draw your scaled version. So hopefully when you've gone ahead and done your multiplication, use the equation y equals 1/2 x, since that's our scale factor, you're going to get these measurements. So we can draw a nice little small, this is 3/4, this is 1/2, this is 1/4, and this is 1/4. Obviously you can see that mine's not drawn to scale because that definitely does not look like it's the same proportions as the one above. But you, with your protractor and ruler, were hopefully able to knock that out. Alright, finally, we've got one more problem. Two more problems. It says your family recently had a family portrait taken. Your aunt asked you to picture using your cell phone and send it to her. If the original portrait is 3 feet by 3 feet long and the scale factor is 1/18, draw the scale drawing that it would be the size of the original portions. So we got a little hint here. It says to change your dimensions to inches. So we're looking up here at our length and width are both 3. So what would that be in inches for our original? Hopefully you said that should be 36 inches. And we'll use the equation y is equal to 1/18 x, that's our scale factor. And 36 times 1/18, hopefully you got this as 2 inches by 2 inches. So if you draw a quick sketch over here, you just want a 2 inch by 2 inch square. Alright, and finally we have John who's building a dollhouse that has a circular window of 5 feet. The scale factor of the model house is 1/30. Draw a sketch for the dollhouse of the window. So once again, this looks like something that I'm going to want to go ahead and convert my feet to inches so I can apply my scale factor. Go ahead and write your equation. And the x value that we want to put in here for our original is 5 feet. And so 5 feet in inches is going to be 60. Y is equal to 1/3 times 60, which is going to give us 2. So the diameter is 2 inches. So we have a 2-inch diameter circle. No worries if your circle is not perfect. Mine certainly is not. Alright, and that's our work. Go ahead and move on to your alone time work. Make sure that you're working silently independently. If you happen to finish early, go ahead and move on to your personalized contest.